Hi, I'm Peter Staecker, um, coming to you in the morning for my time zone, and unfortunately, I think many of you are staying up late to hear this. I hope it's going to be a good experience for you, and it's great to be with you. So, a little bit about me. I've been a volunteer for 30 years, and I've been a member for quite a bit longer than that. I first joined IEEE when I was a undergraduate student at MIT, and I didn't really find it to be very uh, in line with what I was doing until I became a graduate student. Back in those days, there was no electronic media, and subscriptions to journals, technical journals, were and the local meetings in your technical field of interest were the community. So I tried to get closer to IEEE, and I maintained my membership as I went to Lincoln Laboratory, and Lincoln was very supportive of my work in IEEE, and I think it just grew from there. Later on, after many years at Lincoln, I went to industry and continued to work on IEEE matters, and I just kept learning more and more about the institute, and got to know more and more aspects of IEEE volunteer life as well. So it's been a long volunteer career for me, and it's been very worthwhile. My last 2 years as president-elect and president have been pretty hectic. But it's been a great experience, and I've made a lot of friends. I really treasure the experience that I've had through these 2 years, and I'm looking forward to next year as well. So what I'd like to do now is just go through my presentation, and so I'm going to pull that up, and you can get this. I think Kiana is keying it up for you while I speak. So let me just get my act together here. So I'm looking at the title chart that says 2013 Focus Accelerating Advances. This is meant to be some kind of a introduction to what the board of directors is doing and what keeps me awake at night. But I really like the alternate title, which is The Many Cultures of IEEE. So I hope you can get some kind of a view into that as we go along as well. Okay, so the next thing I'd like to do is show you the agenda. We've done the hello stuff, and I want to talk about technical relevance, what we do in terms of what we do at IEEE in terms of providing knowledge, and just give you some contextual view of what's going on with our mission and vision, and then we'll chat. The most important thing about IEEE is that we be technically relevant. That's why we're here. And I'm looking at a picture of Thomas Edison, who was one of the founders of the American Institute of Electrical Engineers, one of IEEE's predecessors. And that all happened in 1884. But they got together because Thomas Edison and others of his peers got together because they wanted a place to have a technical home. They wanted to talk to each other. They wanted to be able to talk about publishing and share ideas with each other. So they started IEEE on the road which it's still on, and that is to be the place, the technical home for engineers and scientists, and to be a collection of communities, and it's really grown since then. The next chart I show, which starts in 1912 and goes up to 1962, are the two organizations that joined in 1963 to become IEEE. The blue line represents AIEE, and the red line represents the Institute of Radio Engineers. And what was going on in the AIEE was that they were concentrating on power and distribution and transmission and so forth, and they thought that this was electrical engineering. And they saw this other organization shooting up, these folks about radio and wireless, and they pretty much ignored them. They chose to rest on their own achievements, and that was a mistake. We see that whenever we want, and so I think we've learned from that, and so we are always concerned about being technically relevant. So what does that mean today? Well, today we're in a state of great flux and change. The technology is advancing exponentially. We have 45 technical societies and councils, and the boundaries of interest among them are getting increasingly blurry. The fields of interest are converging. Some are becoming obsolete. Some, like the Robotics Society, are growing very rapidly. And I would say that robotics is an example of disruptive growth because they're changing lots of things. And another example of rapid growth is the life sciences field, which is now quite convergent with electrical engineering in general in many of our societies. So there's a significant effort to include life sciences in our technology portfolio. I show a picture here of the Internet of Things portal being launched. This is one of the latest additions to our portfolio of new technologies. And if you're not aware of this, that's it's very new. It's going to end up being a very important part of not only our technical lives but our personal lives. Everything will have an internet tag on it. At the same time, the way you're seeing me now is through social media presence, which is continuing to grow, and so IEEE is trying to get into that space because we realize it's very important for the members to have not only a place to get together socially, but more importantly a place to convene technically. And so we are working hard on that, and we hope to have something ready for launch sometime next year. So being technically relevant is about providing knowledge, and it's a complicated, at this point, it's a complicated and dynamic exercise of extracting signal to noise. We are competing with the big powers in publications, for example. So there's a bit of IEEE.com competing with IEEE.org, and it's a constant balancing match to make sure that that we are not going too far in either direction. Our Vice President of Publications, Gianluca Setti, has been very public about his thoughts that the impact factor is being misused, and I think that's supported by a lot of voices in our society. So we are making progress in trying to reduce that use and misuse. But looking forward, do we see that peer review will be replaced by likes or pluses? Some people in the industry see that as a real certainty and are betting their companies on them. I don't think we're there yet. Peer review is probably one of the best ways that IEEE maintains its technical excellence and relevance. Nevertheless, we're doing experiments, and the outcome is positive to our authors, reviewers, researchers, and students. So I think we're doing pretty well in that regard. I wanted to talk briefly about a couple of humanitarian technology conferences, and so the mission of IEEE is summarized in the tagline, which is advancing technology for humanity, and that thought, I've found, varies by region. So we had a humanitarian technology conference in August in Sendai, Japan, and it was about the status of the recovery from the tsunami, and they focused on the recovery and improvements needed for infrastructure going forward, and that's all very technical, but in the poster and exhibit area, the focus was on people, the people who had been displaced from their homes, who had lost family in the disaster, and their thoughts on coping with their daily lives. So humanity was very much a part of that conference. Then I just returned from the Global Humanitarian Technology Conference in San Jose, and the focus was different, but still common to the human condition. We had a keynote speech from Jim Plummer, who is the Dean of Engineering at Stanford, and Stanford has been challenged with the drop-off of electrical engineering and computer sciences enrollment in their graduate school, in their school, and so they looked back on what they were doing, and what they decided was that they really needed to focus on preparing young professionals for the workplace. So they came up with this graphic that if you're looking at the charts, you see it's called the T-shaped student. And in the vertical part of the T, you see the traditional way of teaching, which is just going for depth of knowledge in a technical discipline. lots of required courses and not too many options for other things. Those other things appear in the horizontal part of the T. So a breadth of knowledge about entrepreneurship, creativity, and innovation. The question was, and the students wanted this. The students said they want to make a difference. And the question was, how do you do this? What they did was they started offering these courses outside the core curriculum. And one of the reasons for that was that other faculty were just not supportive of this concept of doing away with the courses they had been teaching for so long. So it had to grow organically, but it did, and that led to a great surge in enrollment in both the College of Engineering and the Department of Computer Science. The other thing that was discussed there in a second keynote was the idea of merging design, humanitarianism, and engineering into what would previously be called an engineering company. And so this place called Catapult Design has put themselves at the intersection of these three roles, and the output that they're achieving is pretty exciting. And if I would urge you to just Google Catapult Design and see what's going on there. So humanity is very much a part of our daily life now. Excuse me just a minute. Hello? No, you have the wrong number. Okay. So on to mission and vision. We are to be the trusted, our vision is to be the trusted source of technical information to the practitioners, to the policy makers, but importantly to the public. And we shouldn't forget that. We have a much broader view, a much broader mandate to be the trusted source. One recent example of that is that in Japan there's a lot of effort going on right now to improve, to bring Japan back to the status that they had in the 1970s, where they were technically very advanced and economically very stable and growing. One of our volunteers, Dr. Kuma, is the head of the Council for Science and Technology Policy. That's a cabinet office, and Dr. Kuma reports directly to the Prime Minister. And in fact, in a visit there earlier this summer, he showed us what they were planning to submit to the government to advance technology. It's very exciting. Prime Minister Abe is a very determined fellow, and in fact he sees the aging of the Japanese culture as a mandate to employ women more actively in business and industry, and that's one thing that we should all be aware of. I've got a few charts about Africa, which is it's more it's another aspect of humanity that's very important. And you can see here Vincent Kabunga, who is the Kenya section chair and is also leading this ad hoc. The idea is to focus on engineering capacity building and help to move Africa forward in their workforce development. Just a few numbers about Africa. There are not a lot of members, and IEEE's presence in Africa is modest, but the growth rate is good, and they are beginning to have conferences and publications as part of their university training. So we have a number of things that we'll be doing. We're focusing on educational activities. We will be doing teacher and service programs, and we've also engaged with UNESCO to look at sponsored events for STEM education in Africa and women in education. So Africa in the future is very much in our minds. We're going to Ghana, Kenya, and Tanzania in another couple of weeks, and we hope to have a short-term and a long-term strategy going forward into 2014. Just last week we had a workshop on continuing education, which is fairly chaotic in IEEE at the moment, but we have a plan, and we're we're in very early stages. It looks promising. In retrospect, coming to the details of the plan was the easy part. Now we have to implement, so stay tuned. And finally, that brings us to the close of what I wanted to say. Took a little longer than I wanted to, but I'm here to chat with you. So I'm back on. So it's back on now. Another question is, what advice do you have for young engineers? My advice to you is to find a community that works for you. And that community can start with people that I'll call mentors. They could be professors. They could be workers in the field. They could be colleagues. They can be technical meetings. They can be section meetings. But be coupled to your technical community and start understanding what other people's points of view are, and develop your own from that. There are many sources of help, and all you have to do is ask. Let's see what else we have. There's a request to give some advice of how to involve the young generation in the engineering field. Well, I think those opportunities are there in a number of ways. If you go to any conference, you will have meetings of students. You will have student paper contests. You will have student design contests, and so again the technical meetings that and the section meetings that are held by IEEE in many places are full of this kind of commentary and discussion. So I recommend that you go to conferences that have the young professionals, the women in engineering, and the students themselves there, and they come to most any conference in our space these days. Okay, I mentioned professional education, and the question is, can you tell us a little bit more about where you see professional education heading in the next 10 years or so? So I think professional education is going to be increasingly important, and it has to do only, I mean, it's due to one thing, and that is that technology is accelerating. The advances in technology are accelerating. So I don't know what the half-life of your formal education is, but it's getting shorter and shorter. And IEEE needs to move into this field with a lot of effort to make sure that we can provide quality continuing education to our members. But where I see it going, to summarize, is that it's going to be increasingly important to your to all of our professions. Another question, and this is a perennial question: how do we make industry more involved in IEEE? And I guess a related question is, how do we make IEEE more relevant to practitioners? Because it's the practitioners who seem to be left out of much of our professional activities. By that I mean that our publications are intended for academics. There's a very clear relationship between the number and the quality of papers that you publish if you're a teacher, and IEEE is a perfect facilitator for that, because we have excellent technical journals, and you can get involved as an editor and so forth, and really enhance your career. So what do you do if you're a practitioner? And the flip side of that is, what do industry leaders think of IEEE? The answer is that while there are many technical communities out there that service the practitioner, we don't have very many technical journals that do. And I think we just need to be more and more aware that we need to service. We need to service the practitioners. We need to service industry by finding the practitioners who exist in our volunteer ranks and encouraging them to provide material that is relevant to their colleagues. And by the way, this question has been around since I was a young engineer in the 1970s. The good news is that we still have, at least in the United States, we still have a number of practitioners who are members of IEEE. But we need to engage them and help us become more relevant throughout the world. Here's another question. Hi, I'm from India. I would like to know how IEEE could help students who are interested in research studies or MS. I assume that's a Master of Science degree, getting the next degree. Well, I would urge you to join your student section and talk to your peers about these issues. The most valuable asset in a student section is the staff, the student counselor, and that person is really key to the success of the group. And so if you're seeing that you're not getting a lot of response from that person, I think just get a bunch of you together and go out and talk to him or her and tell him that you do need more help, and you can give him him or her some ideas about how to help you. Where should I start volunteering if I am starting my first job? Well, if you volunteered when you were a student or had contact with volunteers then you can use them to get some ideas. If you're starting your first job, I would say the first thing you need to do is look around for other IEEE members and find out from them if they are volunteers. You can talk to your supervisors and tell them about IEEE and ask if there's a way that you can add value to the company through some volunteer work. If you and by the way, to all of these questions, feel free to give me a call or write me a note and ask for more details. What is the best advice you have ever received in your profession? That's a question I haven't thought about in a while. And the advice I got when I was considering whether to go to industry or to continue on for an advanced degree may not be relevant anymore. But the advice was stay in school because your advanced degree is like a passport. It's a card that will come in handy for the rest of your life. I don't know if that's true anymore. I think what's true now is understand who you are. Understand what you want out of life and follow that. Uh, but the important thing is to put all your energy into it, because it's worth doing that. It's a very important quality to have as you go through your career. Just this is why you're here, and try to make a difference. Another question is, what was my most gratifying career achievement? That would take some thought too. I've thought of little things that were really gratifying to me because they were thoughts that occurred to me to make a gadget better, that I hadn't thought about before, and it was so simple to do, and it resulted in such a nice change that I was really pleased with myself. I think what I was seeing was some insight into having good ideas, and then seeing them, and then being able to implement them. So that's a fairly general statement that applies to lots of people. How do you think society can help attract females to STEM professions? Well, that's something that I think about a lot, and I've heard stories that females are discouraged from going into this profession by perhaps by their parents, by misguided faculty, and maybe even from mistreatment by their peers. I was in Lisbon about a month ago, and we visited entrepreneurs who were starting businesses on their own. And one of those was a young female who had she had a BS degree, and she was an entrepreneur. And she was definitely in STEM. But she decided she wanted to start her own business, and it was in the programming field. And her faculty advisor said, "Don't do it," and she did it anyway. So I think part of attracting females to STEM professions is just acknowledging the fact that you can do it, and there's plenty of role models out there to help you. Just look at all of the CEOs and technical females who are very prominent now in very successful companies. So I think the role model piece is there. I also think that societies like IEEE and volunteers like Karen Panetta are doing their part to encourage females to pursue occupations in the field. So keep it up. I think we're seeing a lot of progress. Oh, now, by the way, I just wanted to say that part of Jim Plummer's presentation was to show that by just showing students what kind of opportunities existed in these entrepreneurial spaces, they saw not only a a large increase in students who were going to who were electing to go into engineering. But I think he said there was like a 30% female to male ratio in those programs, which was a significant increase from where it had been. So it's a matter of of educators getting smart, like Stanford, and tailoring the educational experience for the student. Well, I think we may be out of questions, and it's been almost an hour. The one thing I don't like about this experience is I don't see, the only feedback I get is typewriters. Okay, here's another question. Do you think with the way society is moving forward, the amount of men and women in engineering professions will soon be equal, or does more work need to be done in order to get there? Certainly more work needs to be done because, and this is strictly from a return on equity argument. If half of our people are females, if you all are not engaged in the growth of engineering professions, then we're not making progress. So it's clear that you're smart enough, and it's clear that when you are engaged in the profession, you bring a special quality to the way in which progress is made. And I say that as a volunteer, where I've had the opportunity and pleasure to see what women are doing for this institution. So we need to continually do more work, but our job is never done. So do it with pleasure. Okay, so another question is that I said that IEEE's work in Africa looks promising, and is there another place that you believe looks promising for IEEE growth as well? Some place where we may not have had a large presence in the past. Yes, I do. First of all of Latin America. We have a small number of IEEE members there for a very large area, and I think the activity in Latin America is really increasing, and there seems to be a lot of excitement among the young people for becoming more active in both our organization and in the professions that our organization serves. So that's one. Another place is Indonesia, where I think we have more members per capita, but it's it's really starting to grow now. It has a pretty stable economy, and the educators there are becoming increasingly interested in preparing their students for engineering professions. So we see that in universities that are forming consortia to avail themselves of the IEEE electronic library, which is a vital part for education. Let's see, those are two. I'm certain there are more. China, of course, is emerging, even though it's got a large population. It's got a fairly small number of IEEE members, but it's clear that they see the value in that as well. Question is, how has IEEE played a role throughout my career? Well, it's been a part of my career ever since I've been in the workforce. It helped me with my research when I was at Lincoln Laboratory. It expanded my audience of peers and mentors. Even in the days when we didn't have internet. So Lincoln Lab, for example, hosted many society meetings, and they do to this day. And the second company I went to, which was an industrial company called Maycom in microwaves, they had many IEEE volunteers there who supported me not only in moving forward in IEEE, but also in moving forward within the company. So it's been a real positive force in my career. Okay, I've been informed that there are no additional questions, and that's because it's almost exactly 1 hour since we started. So I want to thank you all for being present, and I hope this was helpful to you. And I also am quite willing to continue this or any other conversations that you might want to have offline. If you know how to spell my name, my address is p.staecker@ieee.org, and I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much, and have a good day or a good evening, and we'll see you next time.